What is going on, everybody? This is Drew here. I want to welcome you all to a brand new episode of Phoenix Down. This is Phoenix Down 127.4, and we are continuing and finishing our playthrough of Dead Space. Today I have with me Matt.
Hello.
And yeah, we took a week off. You guys didn't know this, but we took a week off because we had to delay our podcast. So bear with us as we try to remember what we did, because we finished this game 2 weeks ago.
I've also done a lot of weird side stuff before and after kind of finishing this game.
Like what?
Well, you inspired me from the last recording because I had sort of not decided not to do the side missions, but I had just kind of been progressing and might have just skipped all the side missions, but you having talked through them and I guess my wanting to get a little bit more story out of the game, I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go, and I paused. As soon as we picked up after the last recording, I stopped progressing the game and went and finished all the side missions.
Okay. All of them completely?
Yep, all of them to where... Because I think there's only like 3 in the game, right?
I think there's only 3.
Yeah, I think there's... Yeah. So I went and finished those all up and then said, all right, now I'm ready to finish the game out.
There you go.
And it, paired with the way the game ends, I have a very strong feeling of satisfaction with this game.
Okay.
It feels good to have gotten all the weapons, to have finished all the side missions, and to gotten through the story of the game. So I'm happy with where we are now.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. I didn't get all the weapons apparently.
Yeah,
there's an achievement.
apparently.
There's an achievement for getting all the weapons, and I was missing it. And I realized I picked up 2 upgrades to the Force gun, picked up Force ammo, but never actually got the Force gun. And I was like, "Gosh, how did I miss this?" But I did, so I guess I'll go back and get that because that's an easy achievement I can just go grab. Yeah, I kind of got, like, especially, I would say especially toward the end of the game when I'm starting to wrap up side missions and, trying to grab those nodes to fully upgrade stuff. And I got kind of addicted to this game toward the end there. Yeah, let's knock this out. Let's knock this out. And yeah, like that last recording session that we talked about, like chapter 10 was like finish up side missions pretty much. But yeah, we got about halfway through chapter 10, I think, is where we ended.
Yeah, sounds right.
And I was, trust me, having a very difficult time trying to remember some of the story beats that happened here. I know. Ugh.
I mean, I kind of like the way the last couple of chapters play out. I guess chapter 10 is where we're trying to go back to the shuttle, right? We've got the Singularity Core, and we're trying to go find a shuttle to install it into so we can escape.
Yeah, but something happens, like there's a person who's opening doors in the atrium that we don't know who it is.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the, go check this out real quick. But yeah, we're trying to get to, there's still a shuttle, kind of like a cargo shuttle, I guess is what it was.
Yeah,
that we could use. And that's when we go into like the area, because in order to get to the shuttle itself, we have to have like admin rights kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's when we had to go to like you were talking about like the upper class decks where, like there was wood paneling and stuff, and you could tell like, oh, the higher ups lived in this area.
Yeah, I like that just as a little bit of visual variety, as well as getting to know a little bit more about how the people on the ship kind of organized themselves and separated themselves.
Yeah. And when you go into this area, like we talked about with the basketball and stuff like that, there's tons of just like sacrificial bodies laying around. Everybody's got hoods over their heads, and it's very cultish would be the best way to describe it. But yeah, going and this is at the end of this chapter is kind of like the beginning of the end, because it plays through probably the last two chapters, like 11 and 12. Isaac is obviously suffering from the effects of the marker, and he's toward the end of chapter 11 especially, the player can see that this is not right. Something is not right. He's seeing Nicole there, and she's telling him to do these certain things, and we run back into the crazed doctor who kind of started this, all this kind of like crazy stuff, and he's obsessed with the marker, and tries to. So one of the things that we're trying to do is move. So Nicole is telling us to move the marker back to the planet, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. And obviously we know, the player, us, knows that we probably shouldn't do this. I don't.
Well, it's interesting because, I kind of like the end of chapter 10, right? You find the shuttle, you install the singularity core, and then you get your second encounter with the hunter.
Yeah.
Where you actually get to kill it this time, which is kind of cool. But then, is there a point where Isaac doesn't really want to do this? Because you start to get a little bit more of the backstory in the last two chapters, certainly. Yeah. But your whole goal here is to get the marker back to the planet.
But is that a bad thing, is my question.
Yeah, it's a good question because it's not clear what the best thing to do is or the least worst thing to do. Yeah. Obviously, the worst thing would be to bring it to Earth, I think.
Right.
But aside from that, what other options are there? Launch it into the sun?
I guess.
Somehow blow it up? I don't know. It's not like it's indestructible or anything, right? It could just be destroyed, pulverized.
I would assume so. That's the one thing that's kind of confused me, is I don't know exactly what the end goal here is for either side of this. So
I think the rationale is just rebury it. I don't know why that's better than destroying it, but I think the goal here was just to rebury it, right?
Yeah, and just don't talk about it.
Or was it
nobody
to
can find it?
Or was it to crush it? I mean, I know that's kind of what happens, but was that the intent? Was to drop the planet-cracked piece onto it? I mean, if anything's going to destroy it, that would, right?
I mean, sure, but I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know what they wanted. So it's hard to talk about this without obviously talking about the spoiler at the end. Because we're like we talk about the motives, but we don't know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, instead of going linear, let's just bring it out there. So the marker obviously is influencing people. Isaac believes that he is seeing his wife Nicole, but in reality he's not. toward the end, it's revealed that the person that he's been talking to this whole time is not Nicole. It's the doctor who was over at hydroponics. And she was telling us this stuff thinking that Isaac was her boyfriend or somebody.
Yeah.
That was on the Ishimura.
Her boyfriend was the head of engineering. Whatever his name was.
I can't remember. But so we were both being influenced by the marker, thinking we were seeing other things. So maybe the marker was wanting us to go back to the planet?
Well, I mean, I like that, like, twist, if you will, because it doesn't feel like it's out of left field to me. The fact that both of these people thought the other person was their significant other seems really in keeping with the way everyone's kind of been hallucinating and falling apart mentally anyway.
Yeah.
So I really like that as a big reveal that you're like, well, of course, that makes perfect sense. So to me, that's like the perfect kind of reveal. But I think when it comes to why we were loading it, most of that came down to Kendra, right? Daniels. Because that was the other big reveal, kind of as we get to the end.
Yeah, she was not part of our group at all. She was kind of like a double agent that was working for the government, I guess.
Yep. I don't think they give a lot more detail than that. Just the government.
And
but that also ties into the backstory too. So I felt like a lot of the loose threads were tied together pretty well at the end of this game.
Yeah, she was wanting to she wasn't wanting to take it back to Earth because she knew that would be disastrous. She was wanting to take it somewhere else and lock it up. And, we're getting what we think is Nicole telling us, no, don't listen to her. You need to bring it back to the planet to make us whole, is what she keeps saying.
Yeah.
And it's also revealed that the marker was actually found on Earth.
Well, it's a copy. So what they say is there was an original black marker that they found on Earth. Then they were studying that marker, and they realized that it had kind of alien influences. It was found on Earth, but it wasn't part of Earth. So what they did is, it sounds like they recreated a bunch of replicas and then shipped those off to various planets to study. And so this is one that was a replica that was being studied, and then eventually got buried because things got out of control with the experiments.
Gotcha. And then the good doctor started bringing the necromorphs on board. And now we know what happened. But yeah, so it's all right. Well, I'm glad you cleared that up because I was thinking it was the marker that was found. But yeah, so there's multiple markers.
Yeah, and I think Kendra was definitely trying to extract it. So the whole team effort to get the marker loaded onto the shuttle so we could bring it down to the planet to destroy it was obviously never her goal. Wherever she was going to go with it, she kind of broke from us and took it and was going to take it back to the government or whatever.
Right. So, I guess in the end, what we did was the right thing. Destroy the marker.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a non-unitologist perspective, there's no reason to keep it around.
Yeah.
Other than, hey, maybe it reveals secrets of the universe, which might be worth trying to untangle if you could do that without turning people into monsters.
Exactly. So, chapter 10 and 11 are all about getting the ship ready and loading the marker on it.
Yeah.
And then chapter 12 is going back to the planet and unloading the marker, which in doing so makes the big chunk of the planet that the planet cracker had pulled up, make it fall back down. And that's when we get our big reveal. Oh, yeah, Nicole's been dead for a long time now. And after she saw what the experiments were doing and all hell breaking loose, she just kind of killed herself and left the final message to Isaac, which was played to him.
Yeah, which is cool. The other thing I love about this is that it's the same message you've been watching like on repeat since before you even arrived, right? It's just you weren't seeing the last part of it.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. So I don't know then, was it intentionally withheld from him, the second half of it?
I don't know.
Or because he wouldn't have been hallucinating before he made it to the Ishimura, right?
Correct. It had to have been held from him
by someone on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't figure out, was there a reason Isaac was coming to this ship? Like other than to work on the ship? Like
I think just that and to find Nicole, right?
Okay. But like I'm saying, like the powers to be were like, he has to be on that ship, that kind of thing. So I don't think so. Yeah,
I don't think so. Unless they thought that they still needed to get the marker off the ship, and maybe no one who was left alive on the Ishimura had the engineering capabilities to get the marker out.
That, or they could think they could probably leverage him with Nicole if Nicole was still alive.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But either way, Isaac's stuck on the ship, and through his hallucinations, agrees to bring the marker back to Aegis 7. And talk about running the gauntlet on Aegis 7, man.
Yeah.
But at this point, I had fully upgraded my plasma cutter. And I had a lot of hit points because after I fully upgraded the plasma cutter, I just put everything else into my suit. This game's a cakewalk now.
Yeah. I also feel like this, one of the last couple of sections here, were some of the only times in the game where groups of enemies come at you from a long distance away. Right? Most of this game, I feel like, is based on dark corridors and enemies coming out in front of you and behind you to make it a little bit of a chaotic fight. This was one of the only areas where I was like in a corner and they had to walk for like 2 minutes to get to me, and I was really able to time out like, all right, I'm gonna stasis the guy with the bomb arm, and I'm gonna wait for everyone else to catch up to him. Then I'm gonna shoot the bomb arm and get like a 3-for-1. And it felt not only easier, but I also felt better. Like I'm like, oh, I'm in control of what happens now. I've got loads of time to get people frozen or line up shots or launch canisters. I felt really good at the end of this game. Like, oh shit, I'm good at this game for this few minutes anyway.
Yeah, no, I had felt that way for probably all of the rest of this game. That plasma cutter. So to talk about it, I started New Game Plus, and I'm playing on medium, same difficulty as the previous one. And I don't know if it's just because it's the beginning parts of the game. One shot from a plasma cutter will take out a dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got my plasma cutter fully upgraded. I've got my rig fully upgraded in New Game Plus. And it's kind of cool because I feel like I could just run and gun.
Absolutely.
The fact that if anyone gets near you, you can just take a swing at them and knock them on their back, and the power of the plasma cutter, and on this New Game Plus playthrough, that's the only weapon I'm going to use.
Oh my god. The weighted blades upgrade is so nice.
Yeah.
It feels so good. A dude just runs up to you and you smack them with that thing and they just fall on their butts. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
And then having so much more health than I started the first playthrough with means that even if I take a hit or two, I'm not worried at all about dying. It's it's pretty overpowered here. It's awesome.
Now, the one thing I do want to talk about is that final boss fight, the hive mind.
Yep.
man, did that take forever. Was that long to you?
Yeah, it was long, and I also, at the very end, I was so annoyed at the aiming, trying to hit the last little nub in the mouth, or one of the mouths.
Yeah,
But
it was. Yeah,
yeah, it took a while. I thought I was gonna die in this fight a few times because I switched weapons a couple of times because to make sure I had enough ammo to keep going, and not every weapon is great. Like I really love the plasma beam, but it takes a second or two to charge, so it's really not great for some of the pinpoint accuracy type fights like this. It's a lot
yeah,
better to have something that's really quick to fire.
yeah. That was the plasma cutter's okay at that. Long distance, it's not the greatest. It's best at like medium range.
Yeah.
So when you got that guy way up there, but it was like 3 phases. Each phase probably took 5 to 6 minutes to do, and I was like, man, this is a 15-minute fight here.
Yeah.
Just kept going.
Plus a lot of running back and forth because in between rounds you get the big tentacles that are slapping down on the deck.
Yep, and then you start spitting acid at you.
Yeah, and then those little cases, the little exploding sacks.
Mm-hmm. The most annoying friggin' enemies in this game, we hadn't even talked about them, is the wall guys. The guys on the wall that spit the little things out.
The ones with 2 arms and a big tail?
Yeah. So those mini guys are annoying, but the wall guys are just not fun to take on because you got to sever all those little tentacles that come out of them.
Oh, the little baby-looking ones with the 3 tentacles?
So, no, not those. You know what I'm talking about, right? The guys that are like
the
melded.
The Guardians.
Yeah, the melded to the walls.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Oh, I hated those because they would spit out like 5 of those little mini baby things.
Yeah, it was too late in the game when I finally realized you absolutely need to stasis them first thing so they don't keep spitting those babies out.
Yeah.
And usually for me it was like, stasis them and then look around, there's got to be an explosive canister, use that first, and then I would go in with the line gun and just try and Swiss cheese it, a couple of shots. At the end, I got pretty good at taking it off, but the first couple I thought took forever, and I'm like, they keep shooting out the babies, they keep they keep regrowing their tentacles. I'm like, this takes forever.
Yeah, I couldn't stand those guys. Holy crap.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, see, and I played with the line gun, and the line gun's not the greatest for that.
Yeah.
Because you can only really go up and down or left to right, and those tentacles are like diagonal, and I'm like, I gotta stupid aim this thing. I don't know. But yeah. So talk about the demise of everybody. The doctor gets killed by, I guess, the hive mind, or some tentacle grabs a hold of him and pulls him to the marker and like squeezes him to death.
Yep, I think so.
You got the doctor who worked in hydroponics that we thought was Nicole. She gets shot and killed by the Kendra.
Yep, Kendra Daniels.
Yep. And then Kendra gets killed by the hive mind at the very end. Whenever we're trying to escape the planet, she doesn't want anything to do with us. She's going to take the shuttle for herself and leave Isaac there. But then, as she's trying to get on the ship, tentacle comes out, grabs a hold of her, and then slams her down on the ground, and then slams on top of her. And yeah, she's dead.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of Michael Crichton's Sphere when you've got those tentacles coming in from the giant squid.
Oh, the squid
reaching around and like pulling you off, and like just had nightmares my whole life about the giant tentacles.
That's a great book. I love that book.
Yeah, me too.
Honestly, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's one other weird thing about the end of this game that, with the reveal that Nicole was never alive, it all makes sense. But, he's been searching for her the whole game. You finally find her, at least you think you did.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got all these interactions with her. You're in the room with her, and you're talking about, escaping on the shuttle. All of those interactions are weird. Like, they come off very cold. But that doesn't even make sense because it is a person there, and you think it's Nicole. So, I don't know. There's something about those interactions in the whole last chapter or so of the game that just are so weird between Isaac and Nicole.
Maybe it's because they're both being influenced by the marker. Because Isaac kind of drones a little bit too. It seems like there's not much emotion there.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like lethargic for both of them.
Yeah, it could be. The struggling against the influence, even when they're not being directly influenced. I'm sure it's taken its toll.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, so there is, and I don't know what it is. I haven't looked it up. There is a secret ending to the game. So when you beat the game for the first time, you unlock New Game Plus mode. You can start a new game on any difficulty, and you can play through the game again. Now, there's a difference here, and in each chapter, there is a piece of the marker hidden throughout each chapter. If you find all 12, you finish the game, you get a secret ending. I have no idea what this secret ending is. I have not looked it up. I kind of want to experience it for myself.
Yeah, I kind of don't want to look it up.
Yeah, I want to see what it is. To be honest with you, it's probably just another 10-second clip at the very end.
Yeah, probably.
But we'll see.
But it's one more reason to play through. I feel like they're pretty generous with what you get to carry over into New Game
absolutely.
Plus.
Everything, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much everything. I wasn't able. I don't know when you did your final rig upgrade, or if you did.
It took me. I think I had to hit level 2, or chapter 2 before it actually happened.
Yeah, me too. I just didn't have enough money. I didn't have quite enough money.
Oh God, I was rolling in the dough.
Yeah,
I had like 170 something thousand credits.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because every ammo piece I picked up that wasn't plasma ammo, I sold.
Yeah, that makes sense. And some of them are a lot. Some of them it's like 3,000 or so per inventory slot.
Yeah, and then on top of that, did you get the ping figurine?
Yes.
Okay, that thing's the most expensive thing in the game.
Yeah, I had to use that to get my level 5 suit upgrade though, so I didn't have it left for level 6.
Gotcha.
I basically spent at least the last third of this game where every single thing I got that I could sell, I sold just to buy health packs and ammo. I wasn't really able to save up anything for the bigger suit purchases and upgrades.
Gotcha.
But they also give you 10 nodes, I think, at the end of the game.
Yeah, they give you 10 nodes at the end of the game, and that gave me the ability to like pretty much fully upgrade the rig. And I think I still got probably like 4 nodes left over that I'm just going to throw into some weapons.
Yeah.
Because there's like an achievement to, I think, theoretically, I think I can get every achievement in this game with the exception of beating it on impossible mode.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's one I have no, no desire to get, like no realistic desire to get. It's just not possible for me.
So you don't think you'll ever try it?
I don't think I'll ever try it.
I'd
love to. I'd love to sit next to somebody trying it.
Right.
I don't know if I could do it. Wait, did you say it has to be on hard?
It's the hardest difficulty.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
and it's a new game. Like you can't bring a new game plus into it. I mean, that's the ultimate challenge. The hardest difficulty, and only one save. And if you die, it's over.
That's crazy.
Oh man, like that would. There is a way to cheese it. Apparently, like I said last time, I think you can. You know, when you die, it kind of shows your body, and it plays like the flatline sound.
Yeah.
During that time, if you pause the game and hit reload from checkpoint, you can reload from checkpoint. Unless they've patched that, I don't know.
Yeah. So you can just keep doing that throughout the whole game then?
Potentially, yes. And then use your save, like, chapter 9 or something, or right before a very difficult part. From what I understand, the big game ending sections are the parts where you get grabbed and you have to shoot the tentacle that's grabbing you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, because it takes a lot of shots on hard mode to bring that thing down, and you have to kill it, otherwise it will be an instant kill for you.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it. I think it was in the section we played for the last recording, but maybe it was whatever the last tentacle was that we encountered in this game. I thought I had gotten myself into a weird game over type of corner, because I ended up getting grabbed right after I had used like my last shot. So I only had the time that I could only reload after I had been grabbed. And I went through that tentacle grab section probably 7 or 8 times before I was able to get out of it, because my other weapons either had no ammo or also needed a reload. And it just happened to be an awkward point that I got grabbed when I had no weapon with which to shoot the sack. And by the time I got it aimed, by the time I got it reloaded, I only had like seconds to try and blow it open. And I couldn't do it. I'm like, I don't know if I can do it with the weapons I have. Like, the beam was all over the place, taking too long with the slight wind up that it's got. And I was like, this might be it. I might have to cut my save. I mean, it's no kind of crazy impossible mode, so it's not like I would have lost hours of gameplay, but I thought I had backed myself into a corner, but try after try, I just barely got the timing down to be able to explode it and get out.
I actually ran into an issue. I glitched the game. I soft locked the game. I can't remember where I was, like what point I was at, but there was a section where I thought I could walk. Then technically I could walk up a little ramp, and when I did, I couldn't move. But when I aimed my gun, Isaac's arm would, like, I could aim behind me, and Isaac would be looking forward, and his arm like bent backwards, and I could aim and shoot behind me. I was like, oh boy, I have glitched this.
Yeah.
And so, and I couldn't move. I can't get out. I tried everything. I was like, well, maybe if I can kill myself. Nope. And so I had to just reload from the last checkpoint, which wasn't too bad, but and I was that was the only real glitch I ran into in this game.
Yeah, certainly with the number of saves and checkpoints, not as bad in this game as in others, but I'm glad I didn't have to do that. But
did you get the achievement? Now I'm just talking about achievements and stuff. But did you get the achievement for ripping off dangling limbs?
I think so, yeah.
With stasis. Or not stasis, but kinesis. For the life of me, I can't figure out how to do it.
I'm not sure. I wonder if I can bring up my achievement list. Is that when you have to shoot limbs at an enemy to kill him, or is it pulling
Mm,
off limbs? Or
it's pulling off limbs. Let me see if I can find that achievement. I can bring my achievement list here. And full contact beam, merchant, collect all schematics. I didn't get that. Wishbone, rip off a dangling limb using kinesis. Only 4.42% of gamers unlock this. And for the life of me, I don't know how to do this. So let me look at a wishbone, not the dog. Achievement, Dead Space Remake. Okay. You can easily do this by grabbing onto one of the suits in the main lab area of medical. Grab onto a leg of the suit, then throw it with kinesis. For some reason, this just unlocks the achievement, and it's the easiest way to get it. I can confirm this works. Just unlock with no problems at all using this method. Trying to do it legit for 30 minutes. So apparently it doesn't have to be an enemy.
yeah, that sounds easier.
Huh. Hit the target with stasis again if needed, but be careful not to use up all the stasis energy. Once the bone is slightly visible, use kinesis to grab and rip off the limb. After that, the players will be awarded with the wishbone trophy. I don't know. I got New Game Plus. I can try that out, I guess.
Yeah, it's why I decided to do New Game Plus on easy, so I could play around with some of these things that might be otherwise difficult, but on easy should be more than achievable.
Sure. I probably should have done that myself, but whatever. I'm playing on medium. It wasn't like I had a hard time on medium, so
yeah,
it is what it is. So, I mean, I know the only other thing we can talk about is the very final ending with Isaac's now on the ship. He has escaped the planet. The planet explodes. And he's sitting there rewatching the video that Nicole sent him. And he turns it off. And when he turns to the co-pilot seat, Nicole's sitting there, and she reaches over and grabs him, and it looks like she's about to attack him, and then it cuts.
Yeah. I assume that's nothing more than just him having another hallucination.
I'm assuming so, because Dead Space 2 happens. So, yeah. And if you remember the ending to Dead Space 2, they tease that again, but then it's actually not a jump scare. But the original game had that ending too. I was like, oh, it kind of, I don't know. Sometimes that final scare always kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah, if only because it feels, it feels forced at this point. It's expected. It's just like, how many scary movies have ended where the killer's dead, and then all of a sudden the last shot is a twitch or something. Oh, the killer's not really dead. All right, I get it. It's an easy way to set up the potential sequel, but it's not the most original.
Right. So how'd you feel overall?
Overall, if I had to sum this game up in one word, at the end of it, I just, like I said, I feel satisfied. It was a longer game than I remember it being.
Sure.
Maybe I just, with doing the side missions and, really exploring everything, it probably took me 16 or 17 hours total.
Yeah, I would say somewhere around in there, roughly.
But for me, that's a real healthy number for a single player game like this, and looks good, plays good. I especially with the way the last few chapters all drive toward the end, I'm definitely not left with the same feeling of it just felt repetitive or formulaic throughout the game. Maybe that's just because I know the story a bit more on the second playthrough as well, but the whole first 2, 3, 4 chapters all kind of make sense, and then the last 2, 3, 4 chapters all kind of make sense. So, I mean, if there was anything that might be considered filler, it was maybe only 1 or 2 chapters in the middle, I think that's fine. It didn't get the sense, in my memory of the first game, it was more like 4 or 5 chapters that just felt like filler.
Yeah.
So, I feel like they improved the game. It's technically great. I feel like I got a lot of game out of the game. And already in New Game Plus, I'm still enjoying it, just because while it's not scary and now that I've just played through it, the story I don't care as much about. Still, the gunplay is fun. It's moment to moment. It's pretty good, and I feel like a badass in the New Game Plus. So all in all, I feel like it was a really solid game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, well, if you listen to the Game of the Year episode on N4G, or not N4G, excuse me, ZTGD radio, you'll know. But I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I think it's fantastic. Resident Evil 4 remake is better.
Yeah.
I shouldn't even say better. I think it was way more jam packed with stuff.
Yeah.
I think
this is a simpler game. It feels like
it definitely does feel like a simpler game. Yeah,
like Olympic scoring, right? They executed really well on what they did, but they didn't aim quite as high.
Right. I think both are very, very great games, and they that's how you do a remake on both sense. So yeah, man, I think Dead Space is obviously I have more love and nostalgia for Resident Evil, but Dead Space is definitely up there for me. When I first played this game, like back in 2008 or whenever it came out, I fell in love with it. I adored it. Yeah. And one of the things that I feel like they did that I was in awe of was the 0G sections and when you were outside in space sections. Now, obviously, I think Dead Space 2 did all that to, ramped it up to 11. And there was even some times in Dead Space 3, if you remember when we played through it, I was just like, man, this is crazy. Like, it's like when you're going through this, you are in space, it feels like you're like out here in the middle of nowhere floating around kind of thing. It's very disorienting. I think the series is fantastic. I hope that this remake did well enough to where they're like, you know what, maybe we should bring this series back.
Yeah, hopefully with a new entry, not just the Resident Evil formula of let's remake every game.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be done. I don't think Dead Space 2 needs a remake. I think Dead Space 2 is still a fantastic game to this day.
Yeah. It's weird that this series was like so unique when it came out. All 3 games were pretty good in their own way, and then it just went radio silent.
Dead Space 3. Well, here's the problem. Dead Space 3 kind of ruined it. Yeah. And while I will say that I don't think Dead Space 3 is a bad game at all. It came out during a time where co-op multiplayer was the thing, and if you didn't have it, people didn't care. It also was a time, if you remember, microtransactions. There were microtransactions pretty rampant in Dead Space 3 that turned a lot of people off. And then also during this time, EA was pulling their crap with the multiplayer pass.
Yeah.
Where you had to buy it new and use a code to go online with the game. And and I think it was just a combination of those where people were just like turned off by it.
So you think it basically was just EA's processes that killed it?
I think so. I think it was, and maybe the formula had kind of wore its welcome out.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It could have been part of that. I mean, Dead Space 3, while I think is a good game, it's nowhere near as good as 2 or 1. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think the landscape has changed enough since? Because I feel like maybe this is just, having, I guess less so recently, but for a long time been maybe more into this type of game, more into these story-based single-player shooters.
Absolutely.
Than something like Overwatch, and I think Sony's done well with them over the last 5 years.
Sure.
I wonder if that has changed the understanding, because I feel like at the time this came out, the idea that this type of game was almost seen as a relic without a heavy multiplayer, or Dead Space 3 having co-op was cool, but I wonder if there was just the sense of it's just a single player shooter. Maybe in the future those are only $30 or $40 games. That's not a AAA thing anymore.
I don't. I think the industry themselves thought that they were going that way.
Yeah, for a while.
For a while, I'd say a solid probably 7-8 years. They were like, yeah, single player games are old hat. Nobody cares about them. But there was definitely a resurgence of it. I mean, if you think about it, you got Spider-Man.
Yeah,
you got
Spider-Man, God of War.
The Last of Us. I mean, you got even like The Witcher 3 was a huge success. Cyberpunk 2077. These kind of like epic RPGs, long story driven RPGs. Final Fantasy's been doing it for years. They're definitely making a resurgence. It seems like, especially in the past probably 6-7 years. So I think there's definitely some room there for a single player horror game. I mean, Resident Evil's been doing it for years.
Yeah.
Do
you think they could have gone radically different with this and done almost a Mass Effect style RPG with a number 4? Do you think they would do something like that to make it bigger?
Potentially, but at the cost of like a story, Dead Space's story is not the deepest. I mean, it is when you go into the lore and stuff like that, but like when you're playing the game, it's just, oh, what's happened here? Oh no, this guy died. It's not like you're sitting down to play The Witcher.
Yeah.
Could there be room for that? Sure. I don't know how you make that game though, because I fear that what sets those games apart is the way the story is played out with choices. When you play an RPG now, you're expected to have dialogue options and changes to the story based on your choices. And with Dead Space, I don't know if that would work, really. I mean, you could make a game like that, but it just doesn't... I just don't think it would gel properly. Dead Space, for the most part, is a horror action game.
Yeah, certainly.
So I don't know. I think there's definitely room for the Resident Evils and Dead Spaces, especially in this day and age. I think people kind of crave that stuff because I guess we were kind of oversaturated with multiplayer games.
Yeah, it's funny how the pendulum swings back and forth.
It always goes that way.
Yeah.
It's. I can say the same thing about virtual reality. VR, 5-6 years ago was like, oh man, this is going to be the next thing. Everybody's going to play their games this way. And now VR, I think, has kind of went by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, it's a big question mark. I mean, I haven't heard almost anything about PSVR 2. Although, to be honest, I would have bought one day one if they said, look, this is backwards compatible, because I would have been like, great, all the stuff I've missed over the last few years, some of that stuff I picked up at a discount, I'm going to play it all now on day one. That's great. But as soon as they said it wasn't, I'm like, look, I'm not going to invest in an entire other ecosystem that, let's be honest, probably doesn't have a 10-year life cycle.
Yeah. That's...
so between that and the Quest 3, I mean, I have the Quest 2. I think it was fantastic for what it was. Lots of bite-sized experiences, new experiences, but I haven't really played a full game. I guess I have Resident Evil 4 is probably the fullest, realest game I have on the Quest, but the games I've enjoyed the most have been weird little, unique things.
I've heard multiple people say Resident Evil 4 is actually really good.
Yeah, what I played was awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's I would love to see a new Dead Space game. You know.
It would be absolutely terrifying in VR too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually having to look all around in all different directions and things bursting out of vents behind you and below you and above you, man, that would be scary.
That's one thing I had to say about this remake. It did not scare me one bit.
Yeah. Which is weird, again, because the visuals and the atmosphere, like you said, even I think in the first episode, it's a lot darker. Like, if what's hiding in the dark is scary, this game has that. Like, there's a lot of darkness. There aren't a lot of things lying in wait in the dark, but, the atmosphere of this game is great, even if it's not as scary as it feels like it should have been.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's a hard one. I feel like I was too well equipped on top of... I kind of just expected, here something's going to pop out here. Yeah. I don't know. The musical cues also, it seemed like there was a music cue for every enemy in the game.
Yeah.
And when you hear that, you're just like, oh, okay, it's time to fight.
Yeah, and on top of that, sometimes it goes into the lockdown mode.
So you know something's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, when the lights all turn red and it says, unknown biological contaminant, you're like, all right, something's coming. Which, in some ways, was cool. I don't think those sections were ever meant to be the scary sections. Those were meant to be the tighten your belt thing. You're about to have a fight.
Yeah.
Which I kind of enjoyed those. That sort of couple of second lead into a fight, just as a hold your breath and get ready. But that's different than the scary ones. I do wish some of the, if not jump scares, some of the unexpected scares in the darkness were a little scarier.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like this, and I'll praise it to the ends of the earth. Resident Evil 4's like the balance of that game can't be matched.
Yeah.
That was the thing that really set that game apart. Was you really felt like that was a crazy fight because I have no ammo.
Yeah.
And one healing item left.
It definitely did that aspect of the game better than any other game that I can think of.
Yeah. And with Dead Space, I never felt that way.
Yeah.
I never felt, quote, screwed.
And while I think the action and the gunplay is all good in this game, again, I think one of the best things about Resident Evil 4 is that the push and the pull of having to go into the crowds to do what you need to do and to get the extra efficiency. And that kind of running in and running out for me was what made that game so... every fight was exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But that's it. That's Dead Space.
It's funny the number of times we've said, oh yeah, I might go back and do a new game plus. This is one of the only games where I've already started it before we even have had this recording.
Yeah, I did that with Resident Evil 4, if you remember, because I was like, well, because I had it in my mind, I was like, I'm getting that infinite rocket launcher, period. But I did do the first chapter, and I felt like I speed run that game, and because that first chapter, like I remember, doing everything. It took probably an hour to get through the first chapter of Resident Evil 4. New Game Plus, 15 minutes max.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, and kind of the same way with Dead Space, because at the very beginning of Dead Space is kind of slow and you don't have a weapon, and but once I got that weapon, once I got that plasma cutter, the sucker's already fully upgraded and I can just plow through dudes, and that's what I did. So yeah, I don't know, I both Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space, I want to go back and do a New Game Plus. I really do. When I find the time is going to be a fleeting thing very soon. So
the clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking. So, and I've got, which our next game is Greedfall. So I got Greedfall to get through, and in 2 weeks, I've got Infinite Wealth that I'm going to play. So, but yeah, I was thinking we get through Greedfall, right? Do you want to do The Man Who Erased His Name?
Sure.
So, well, we could, because from what I understand, like that game leads up to Infinite Wealth, basically. From what I understand, The Man Who Erased His Name is maybe 12 hours max. So
that's pretty short on the Yakuza timelines.
No kidding, right? So yeah, I figured we could get through Greedfall, because I want to do Greedfall. I'm not discounting that at all. We've been wanting to do Greedfall for over a year now.
Yeah, I feel like it's already been the redheaded stepchild here, and it's we keep ignoring it in a way.
Yeah, so we're gonna do Greedfall next, and then probably do The Man Who Erased His Name, because I am gearing up for Infinite Wealth. Now, I think we've kind of already made a conscious decision that we're not going to do Infinite Wealth as we normally do on Phoenix Down. Matt, I'm assuming you're getting it.
Yep.
Okay. I am too. I pre-ordered it. I am. If you pre-order it, you get 2 special classes. So I want to get those classes. Or jobs. Excuse me. They're jobs in that game. But what we're probably going to do is just take our time with that game, play through it whenever we want to, and then have like a kind of like a spoiler cast where we just talk about our thoughts on the entire game and everything like that. And to be honest with you, that's probably what's going to end up happening after my child is born.
Yeah.
Is I'm not going to have the time to both play games or sit and talk about them. But I am going to try to make time to at least come on every once in a while and we just talk about a game, that we've played through. We do have an email. It came in hot, fresh off the presses here. It comes in from Kevin. It says, hey guys, first of all, congratulations are in order. Congrats, Drew, on the new baby. It's an event that's going to consume your time, but it is so worth it. Just getting to see the world through a new set of eyes is epic. I hope you have a boy, by the way, because I have a 9-year-old girl who is rebellious as hell and argues constantly, but I love her. Still, don't wish her attitude on anyone. LOL. Well, I'm having a girl, so looks like we're going to be in the same boat in a few years. Matt, I feel bad for not saying much about you, but keep kicking ass.
Working on it.
There you go. We enjoy what you guys do and appreciate the time you take to put these episodes out. Wish I could comment on Dead Space, but the only time I played it was in my 20s, drunk, and I tried to punch a boss to death. Take care, guys. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We're both very excited and nervous and frantic, and I got to get the nursery ready, and yeah, there's a lot. But yeah, I do appreciate that. Yeah, I'm gonna have a little girl. So, but thank you for that email. And if you would like to send an email to us, it is drew@ztgd.com. You can also tweet to us. I am at DML Fury. Matt is at REMGS. And the podcast itself is at ZTGD Phoenix Down. I'm going to check that Phoenix Down just in case. Nope. Nothing on the tweets. But yeah. Shoot us an email. We're doing Greedfall next. Kind of a cult classic, it seems like. Spiders make some very interesting games, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's going to be it for us. Thank you all for listening. Really appreciate it. But until next time, I am Drew.
And I'm Matt.
And we are out of here. You guys have a great week, and we'll be back next week with the beginning of Greedfall.